my future is to, like I said, to move back to Portugal, because I tell people that I'm physically here in the US, but my soul is so there. There's this huge disconnect. And I've never, ever felt at home here, ever. And I have, like I said, I don't have very much family, but, I do have my parents here. I have my husband. It's very homey, but there's something that's missing. And I know the feeling when I go back to Portugal. I feel so complete. And I I want to be able to, like you said, bring the medicine back to my community.
Welcome to the Deeper Awareness Podcast, where we delve into the depths of our inner selves, uncovering authenticity and transformation. Join us for enlightening conversations on breathwork, self-discovery, and the profound journey within. I'm your host, Josh Perry, joined by the delightful Hannah Oxley. Let's begin.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deeper Awareness Podcast. Today, we interview Lucia Oliveira. She is such a beautiful light. Not only is she a fellow breathwork facilitator, but she is also a pediatric sleep coach. And so I love people's stories. This is definitely a common thread throughout all of our episodes, but it's when life gives you lemons type of story. And what are you going to do with this gift of a struggle? It doesn't feel like a gift when you're struggling, but when you look back, you're like, well, thank God I went through that. Otherwise, I would never have, finished ABC, whatever that is. So I feel like so many people have stories like this in general, but especially after the pandemic. So we are now at the end of 2023. So it was only 3 years ago when our world just completely shut down. And I always felt the worst for restaurant owners and gym owners, because that's just their livelihood, is people coming in public, in, public spaces, close quarters, to enjoy life together, enjoy the same air. As breathwork facilitator, I like to breathe air. But anyway, so for Lucia, she will tell her story about how she was running a gym, a fitness place. Can't think of my words right now, but she was forced to close and find something else. But during that time also, she was faced with becoming a new mom and all of the joys and all of the struggles that come along with that. And that kind of taught her the importance of sleep, not only for mothers, but definitely for little ones. So I won't spoil any more of her story. So please enjoy this episode with the beautiful Lucia.
I was going through a really rough time personally. I had a business in Jersey. It was a brick and mortar fitness studio. We were open for about almost 7 years. And then, of course, COVID hit, and that just completely went down the drain.
Gyms and fitness places are the things I felt the worst for during that time.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, with where we were located, particularly, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with New Jersey, but we were in Hoboken, which is kind of like an urban market. They consider it like another borough of New York City. So a lot of people that were living at the time in Hoboken when COVID hit, most of the people like either rented and they were in apartments, and now that they were working from home, it was considered a hot zone in that area. And so a lot of people moved out of Hoboken into the suburbs or even out of state. Now that people could work anywhere, even from my team, a lot of instructors and people who worked my front desk were like, well, I've always wanted to live in Texas or in California. Now this is my opportunity. So I wouldn't say all of them, but a lot of people fast forward their life, like something that they were probably going to do in 5 or 10 years. Here it was now present that they could actually move. So from a team perspective and clients, a lot of people left Hoboken. And so for us to rebuild a studio And we would have rebuilt had our landlord been nicer about it. He was expecting full rent and whatnot. And so anyways, we were forced with the decision of closing, which to me, that was probably one of the most challenging, most heartbreaking moments in my life, because it was something that I had created for about 7 years. It's also where I put a lot of self-worth in. I tied a lot of self-worth with my business. And when it came time to close, I felt like a complete failure, disappointment. I mean, you name it. And in during that time as well, I became a first-time mom as well. So I was trying to navigate a business that was slowly crippling down and navigating becoming a first-time mom in the middle of COVID. So talk about resilience. Like I was like, if I got through that hard year and a half, 2 years, I can get through anything. And so once, I was transitioning out of my role of being a studio owner, I felt like something was really missing. Like I needed to find myself back. And the other component that I think was really difficult for me was postpartum. I was nothing really prepares you for that. And it was really hard. I kind of felt really lost. And so I felt like I need to come back to myself somehow. I didn't know what. And then I found this program. It was a 6 month, or 3 or 6 month, I can't remember what it was, but it was exactly what I needed. It's like kind of like a soul searching, coming back to yourself. And what was interesting enough is part of the program, Sam Skelly was facilitating a breathwork session at the time. And I did it and I was completely floored. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. I remember I went in like, what is breath work? Like, I know I breathe and all that, but I can't even tell you that session, there was like so many emotions coming up for me. It was like afterwards, I felt so light. And I don't know, I felt for the first time alive. And I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. I have to learn more about it. And so that's what drove me to pause. And I'm like, wow, there is a breathwork facilitator program. I think I hopped on a call with someone, and shortly after, I think a day or two, I enrolled in the program. And that's kind of how things just started to unfold for me in this new opportunity. So that's kind of how I came into knowing what breathwork was.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's everyone's story is different, but also so similar. Like it's like you said, breathwork, and everyone who I talk to about this, they always say breathwork found me, because that's always how it feels. It's like it just popped into my life when I needed it the most.
Yeah, totally. And that's exactly what happened to me. Like when I signed up for this program, like I didn't even know breathwork was part of it. Like I think it was part of, like, she had a guest, and she felt like a lot of people could benefit from it. And so Sam led the session, and I was like, wow, this is an incredible experience. And what a way to like really deepen your connection with yourself and come back to your soul. So that's kind of how things started to unfold. And here I am now, fast forward, 2 years or whatnot. And I'm in a completely different space now, in a good place. So.
And so I checked out your Instagram. So tell me about the pediatric sleep stuff.
Yeah.
Did you get into that
So,
before breathwork or after?
yeah, I mean, I'm such a planner. Like when I knew that I was gonna close my studio, I'm like, well, what's next for me? I'm like, I have no idea. And I'm also, if I'm being super honest with you, I have a hard time sitting in the pockets of the unknown. Like I need to like know what's next. Like I'm sometimes very impatient. Definitely a work in progress per se, but so when I became a mom, the first 6 months of having my son was really, really hard. On top of it, like, trying to navigate losing your studio and this new role of being a mom. And my son was an awful sleeper. Like, he was a kid who would be waking up every 2 hours. Naps were non-existent. He was super cranky during the day, and it was because he was really tired. And I thought I was going to lose my mind, to the point that I experienced postpartum depression and anxiety from it, because when you are in a moment where you're not sleeping well, like, it really impacts your whole life. I know it sounds simple, like sleep is so important, but when you start not sleeping, like, you think you're going to lose your mind. And so I was like, well, I need to figure something out because I'm not thriving as a mom. I'm not showing up as the mom that I want to be for my son. My son is not thriving. None of us are. And so I was like, I need to figure out a way to get him sleeping better. And I knew that I didn't want to do the cry it out method. Like, I knew that there was probably another holistic approach to it. So I did tons of research, tried a lot of things to see if it worked. And finally I figured something that worked for our family. And so I felt this whole transformation happen where he was sleeping through the night. His schedule was a little bit more predictable during the day. Like, I felt super confident because as a first time mom, if you're going through it for the first time, you feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes I feel like I still don't know what I'm doing, but I don't know. I just felt a little bit more confident. And so I was like, wow, this is such a game changer that could be such a game changer for families if their little one starts sleeping better. And so I looked into doing something with that. And at the time, of course, I didn't know sleep coaches existed. Had I known, I would have hired one right off the gate. But at the same time, had I not gone through it, I probably wouldn't be a sleep coach to begin with. So very grateful for the journey. And so I was like, well, there's actually sleep coaches out there that do this for a living and help families. I would love to do that because even from a personal experience, like, I know how that feels and I know how this can really impact the whole family. And so I went through a certification process. I enrolled into becoming a sleep coach, and that's kind of where I started. I started off like Luminous by Lucia. Wasn't Luminous by Lucia. It was called something different because at the time I thought I was just going to focus on sleep. And as I started to go through the breathwork program, a lot of things started to kind of unfold. And I'm like, wow, I really want to create a container, a space, a support system for moms, not just around sleep, but body, the movement of the body, because I'm a fitness instructor. So if that looks through, working out or yoga, involving movement. And then the soul component was breath work. So I'm like, well, my old business name doesn't really make sense right now. So let's rebrand and create something different. So that's kind of where Luminous by Lucia kind of became Luminous by Lucia, was just one thing after the other. And that's kind of where I am right now.
I love that.
Yeah. So.
And so it's almost like you've rebranded a couple times, no?
Well, 2 times, because the studio that I had was a franchise. So that was on its own per se. And then when I first started my own business, which is very different, I will say that owning a brick and mortar business compared to an online business, holy smokes, it's very different. I mean, there's a lot of things that carry over, right? But it is a completely different animal. And the other thing that I think is also very different is when you buy into a franchise, there's already a brand awareness. There's some sort of connection. There's a lot of marketing done, right? But when you are creating your own brand, no one knows who Lucia is. I mean, yeah, they knew Lucia as the studio owner of the studio, but they don't know who I am. So starting from zero is basically where I started, with marketing, branding yourself, putting yourself out there is so different from owning a brick and mortar place where people can come in, you invite them into your space, And also when you buy into a franchise, there's, like I said, there's a lot of awareness around that, as you know, already, and marketing done for you in a sense, you know? So it's definitely a learning experience building
Hmm.
off of that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like that I love how you named how you can be afraid of the unknown, but yet it's always like creeping into.
It totally is. I mean, if this 3 years have put me in such an I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but in a place where there's a lot of unknown, a lot.
Hmm.
And when you think about it, we live sometimes in the unknown and we don't even know it. It's just an illusion that we have that we know everything and we don't. We may have a sense of where we want to go, but when the universe throws you these major curveballs, which is what I experienced. And then on top of that, besides, you know, closing my studio, being a first time mom, my dad had to do a triple bypass surgery at the same time. So that was a really health scare for our whole family. And I'm like, oh my God, my word for me is resilience. I mean, I want to get that tattooed somewhere on me because that is definitely my word. It's being resilient and not giving up on yourself, on your vision and what you really want. And so that's kind of what I've learned these last 3.5 years. Yeah.
And it's always like that looking back, like, oh shit, I can't believe I actually made it through that. And
Yeah.
that reminder that you can really do anything.
Yeah. And even tapping into things that you probably would have never known about yourself. Like this was definitely um, a learning experience and coming really to knowing myself because the things that I was faced with, I didn't recognize the resilience that I had within me, the strength to overcome, you know, these life challenges. Had I not gone through, I probably would have known that I wouldn't, like, I didn't know if I would have the strength to overcome them. And I'm happy that I did in the sense because there's so much more gratitude and so much more love for myself that it wasn't there before. And when I look back at these challenges, I I can get really emotional talking about it because I'm, I feel like a completely different person. I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago or 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. And this kind of shook me to my core to like wake up and find this new version of myself that I didn't know existed, you know?
Hmm.
So I'm grateful that I went through it. And, you know, looking back at the loss of losing my business, if I'm being really honest with you, I think it probably was the best thing that could have happened to me. And that took me a really long time to come to this realization because I don't think it was serving me to my highest purpose. I think there's a lot more out there for me and it's given me the opportunity to do other things that I think I probably would not have had the opportunity to do so had I had my studio. So
Hmm.
I'm grateful for that.
That's a theme that we are constantly seeing as we have people share space with us here of because I found breathwork when I was really sick, and when I was in that space of just being sick, like I would ask, why is this happening to me? Like, why me? Why do I have to go through this? Why is this happening again? Like it happened a couple times, and but it's if that didn't happen, I'd still be in that small living in that small space that I was living. I was not showing up as myself. I thought everything was just, I thought life was just the way it was. And I was living in this small version of myself. And if I
Wow.
didn't get that sick, I would never have expanded and found breath work. So I feel the same way. It's a hard thing to accept and be grateful for. But in the end,
Mhm.
I truly am grateful for that
Yeah.
shakeup I got.
Yeah, and I think those those challenges that we're faced with in life is just And I'm a firm believer that if we didn't have the strength to overcome whatever that is, I don't think the universe would present itself with those challenges. But I think, with my experience with what you just shared, Hannah, it's like the universe knows that you have the strength to overcome that. And so it puts you to the test and you overcome it and you make it to the other side that, like what you said, like you've expanded so much. This new version of yourself is so different from where you were before. And that's such a beautiful thing to experience. Maybe at the time it totally sucks and you're like, what the F is going on, and you start to question everything. But there's always, always, always a silver lining behind everything. And we just have to sometimes, and that's what I loved about breath work, and what I still do love about breath work, is it allows us to quiet ourselves and really notice what's happening in our bodies and our minds. And it allows us to move forward, right? Like, had you not done breath work, you probably wouldn't be here with Josh doing this podcast. And there's so many things that if we just allow ourselves and lean into the unknown, there's so many beautiful things that can come out of it if we allow ourselves to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Lucia, thank you for sharing all that.
You're welcome. You are so welcome.
I wonder if you could take us back in time to when you were little and kind of your upbringing or how you were raised on how to navigate this world, and then kind of stepping forward. It sounds like, there's that chunk of time where you became a business owner, and then, that desire to do the things. And that's kind of the premise of the podcast. We call it deeper awareness. We're going through life, doing the things, trying to be fulfilled. And then life or the universe shakes the shit up. And so can you kind of just go back in time and lead us up to, we just want to hear your story.
Yeah. No, I love this question so much. So I'm a first generation from immigrant parents. My parents moved to the States. We're originally from Portugal. I was born in Portugal, came to Portugal when I was about 2.5 years old. And being an only child and a daughter to immigrant parents is not an easy thing. And both my parents, but especially my dad, he is my biggest role model because he had everything in Portugal. He had a business, he had a home, he had a car, he had literally everything. And he had this big vision for himself, a vision to provide with a lot of beautiful things that maybe he wouldn't be able to provide had we stayed in Portugal. And so he moved to the US. And it's funny because at the time when he moved, I remember, like, I was little, I don't remember, but he shares this story with me all the time. And so does my mom. And he moved to the States with $200, didn't speak the language, did not have family here, zero. And he created a beautiful life here. He owns his own company. My mom owns her own company as well. So there's always been that entrepreneurship feel in me. And my dad was my biggest inspiration for taking risks and going for it. You only live once and you have to make the best out of it. And that's what kind of stuck with me when I was little. Like, my dad would be the type of person, and I love him for it. He's not the type of dad that would say, great job this, you did awesome. He'd always say, you could do better. And I've always had that in me to keep moving, to be better, become a perfectionist, which is, I would say, probably a little bit of my weakness here, but he was always my driving force to make myself someone. And so he was really the driving force for me to open the studio, right? I was working in corporate and I loved what I did, but I felt there was something missing. And so I was like, it's either now or never. But I will say that my dad really influenced me in a positive way to really go after your dreams. And so he's always been my driving force to keep going, no matter how challenging life can get. You know, yes, there's going to be moments that you're going to fall, but it's how you pick yourself up. And so he's taught me that. And I think that's kind of where that whole notion of not giving up and being resilient, just like how my dad was, like, I can't even imagine moving to this country without speaking the language, not having family, and really starting from zero. I mean, I can't imagine talking about taking a big risk, right? An adventure. And so that's kind of how I was raised in this type of world, but also it's hard when you're and coming from immigrant parents. It's very different. There's this drive, this motivation to keep going. I don't know what it is, but it definitely, my parents, especially my dad, I will say my dad has had a huge influence in my life in that sense.
Because there are people that are afraid to just travel for a week into another country,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
they have
yeah,
set this example that like you can literally do anything.
totally. And I think my dad is just, I mean, like I said, he is my biggest role model. And I think when I lost my business or closed my business, I felt so disappointed because I felt like I let my dad down, if I'm being honest with you. You know, I had created this, and then all of a sudden, even though it was completely out of my control, it was a hard thing for me to, there was this pride. I felt so much pride of like, I have this really great studio, I have a great team, I have a beautiful community. I had a lot of things really great going for me. And all of a sudden it gets swept out from underneath you without even a warning, you know? And so that was really a moment for me to kind of be at peace and just accept it. And my dad, you know, was such a huge support through the whole process of closing, you know, and he's like, don't let this define who you are. And yes, it is easy to say that, but for someone who ties, you know, your self-worth to it, and this is what it was my first baby, if I'm being honest, you know, it's just to see that slip away was really hard.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're the type of person that will also kind of light a fire underneath you too, to not
Yes.
get too
Yeah. I
caught
mean,
up
there's
in.
moments that I literally want to pull out my white towel and say, like, I am so done. But there's something so deep that's unexplainable that just tells me to keep going. Trust the journey, trust the process, and just allow things to unfold. Just believe in yourself. And I had this vision that when I mentioned earlier to you that had I had my studio, I probably wouldn't have the opportunity to do this. So I have this huge desire and passion of moving back to Portugal at some point in my life. That's definitely on the radar. I feel so at home when I'm in Portugal. I feel so alive. It's the feeling that I want to wake up to every day. And I know that I'm on vacation. I know it's different, but there's something in that air that just brings out this fire, this desire to, like, I don't know what it is. And so when I was in Portugal over the summer, I had this huge calling to do some sort of wellness retreat there. And I was like, I'm so going to do it. I am so going to do it. And so the opportunity presented itself, and I'm hosting my first wellness retreat there in July. And like, had I not had that experience of closing my, like, I would have never been in this space to want to create something. And I know that this is really my calling because it's bringing the fact that I'm in Portugal in this beautiful country and bringing some of my gifts with me and showing it to a few guests. I mean, that's like a dream come true for me. And so it's really leaning into those pockets where we feel really crunchy, where we're like, why did this happen? But then this magical opportunity happens, you know? And so yeah, it really lights up this huge fire that you were saying, Hannah, that to keep going because something magical can happen. And this is something that happened to me not too long ago, you know? So yeah, it feels really good. It feels really good.
Can I just say that I went to Portugal? It was my first solo trip, and I went by
Awesome.
myself, and it was the most magical place. So I am with you. I don't
Amazing.
have
I
those
love
roots
hearing that.
there, so I can't imagine how much more richer that feels when you're there. But oh my,
Yeah, it's this outer body experience. Like as soon as I land and the plane opens the doors and I can actually breathe in, like I feel my whole body transform. Like I don't know how to explain
hmm
that in words, but
hmm
that's how I feel. And I know down the line at some point I want to move there for sure. I mean that is a non-negotiable.
I love that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember getting off the plane too because I had to. My first Airbnb I was staying at was in Sintra. I don't know. I want to pronounce
Yeah.
that correctly. So
Sintra.
I
Uh-huh.
Sintra, and so I got off the plane. I was like, okay, I gotta find the train station, and like all of a sudden there was like everything was so easy. Like that. It's just the I don't know if it was this overwhelming sense of confidence that it gave me, or just the way that it's actually structured. Everything
Hmm.
was so easy, and I felt safe all the whole time, and that's what gave me the like solo travel bug.
I love
So
that.
good.
And you stayed in such a beautiful place too. Sintra is so beautiful.
It's
It's such a
magical.
perfect, it is really magical. Like the whole forest. I don't know if you ended up going to see like that famous palace that's there and because it's a great strategic area because you're so near Lisbon and you also have these beautiful surf villages that are not so far from Sintra, it's really awesome. So I'm so happy you got to experience that. So thank you for sharing that.
I would go back in a heartbeat. So next time you're having, maybe I'll sign up for your July thing.
Yeah, go for it.
So fun.
Do you expect the people from Portugal to attend your retreat or from the US, or do you know? Do you have any
Yes, so most of the people that I'm envisioning, like right now, so my women's it's a women's wellness retreat that I'm hosting in July is basically sold out. Like there are a few most of the people there or most people participating in the retreat are from here.
Mm.
And I'm planning to do a co-ed wellness retreat, 2 weeks after my July, so in early August. But I envision most of the people attending these retreats are from the US or Canada. Yeah. Even though it's starting to become a little bit more of a hype there in Portugal. Like it's slowly growing and people are really into like, you know, holistic therapies and there's a lot of wellness retreats already there, but I do find that it's a lot of people from other countries coming to facilitate these retreats and which is great, but a lot of the Portuguese people, they're like, I'm already living life. I don't need a wellness retreat. Like they're in a different zone, I guess, but I do see a lot of the people attending these retreats coming from the US or Canada or abroad. Yeah.
I was just thinking about the hero's journey. Are you familiar with that?
No, no.
Oh, it's Joseph Campbell, and he was looking at he wrote a book or two. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the idea that he looks at all these myths, and it's kind of like the Harry Potter. A lot of our movie plot lines are based on this hero's journey, and it's this cycle that happens in life, and it's like the if we take Luke Skywalker, that he was the farm boy, he went through the hardship, and then he meets a mentor, which was Yoda, and then it's all of this tragedy and growth that you're going through, and then you become who you're meant to be. You
Mm,
become the hero, and then there's like it's like the final challenge, and it could be like you face the dragon inside the cave, or you face Darth Vader, or, Harry Potter had to face Voldemort, and so it's this, and then at the end they bring their medicine back to their people.
Wow.
And so I was feeling that in you, like this growth, and it could be like multiple lifetime stuff too. But it's like you being from Portugal and now going through all of these challenges, and you've meant our mentor can be multiple, and it can be your dad, it can be losing the business, it can be COVID, can be a mentor, right? It can be
Hmm.
all of these ways that we're being challenged, we're overcoming, you're becoming resilient with the tattoo, the desire there, and all of this internal growth that is now medicine for people. And now for you to come back to it, it can be metaphorically. Like for
Hmm.
me, I went through religious struggles, and now I feel like at some point I will be bringing my medicine back to the people that are also transitioning out. So for me, it's like coming back to a community. And for you, it might be coming back to a land, a country.
Yeah. I mean, that way, I love this story, Josh. I mean, that is such a beautiful metaphor for life, but I think just even with us, where we go through these hardships and we come across these mentors that open us up into this new life of ours. I mean, that was so beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. And I do agree, and I want to be, because of all the things that I've gone through and the things that I've learned and how I got myself back to not losing myself and revamping, like upgrading myself to 2.0, 3.0, wherever version I'm at right now. I want to be able to support those people as well and be there to support them, whatever they're going through, because I know that they have the strength. And sometimes all you need is that one person to believe in you. And for me, going through these challenges in life, yes, I did have family, but I felt so isolated going through some of this stuff, especially becoming a mom. And I don't understand and can't comprehend. I mean, I get we were going through COVID, but even now, it's so isolating, and people don't really talk about the realness of motherhood. And it is a beautiful but very messy journey. And a lot of people talk about the beautiful journey, but not the messy one. And I think just with my overall experience and what I've gone through and how I feel, it's important for us to have a voice and to share this with other people. And that's kind of where, when I was sharing Luminous by Lucia, that's my foundation, is to be a support system for anyone who's going through whatever that is. If it's motherhood, if it's just life, loss, whatever that is, I want to be a support system for them, And yeah, I really hope that my future is to, like I said, to move back to Portugal, because I tell people that I'm physically here in the US, but my soul is so there. Like there's this huge disconnect. And I've never, ever felt at home here, ever. And I have, like I said, I don't have very much family, but, I do have my parents here. I have my husband. It's very homey, but there's something that's missing. And I know the feeling when I go back to Portugal. I feel so complete. And I I want to be able to, like you said, bring the medicine back to my community.
Mm.
Yeah.
So one piece that really stands out as I've been working with people, and a lot of when we have trapped stuff inside of us, it's because there's judgment or no one has taught us how to create space for those feelings. And I've discovered in the last couple of weeks this idea of longing, and how that longing is a driver, it's a motivator. But there's so much richness that teaches us about who we are or what we stand for in that longing. And so if we create space, not to get rid of the longing, but to dive into the longing as an exercise of understanding what do I value? What's important to me? And
Mhm.
so, with that premise and that longing to be home, can you dive into that portal right here with us and just
I
kind of
think
feel into that longing? Like, what makes you you?
mhm. I I mean, that's such a deep question, Josh.
That's what I do.
It's so deep. I don't even know where to go from here.
Well, just feel it for a minute. Feel it for a minute. Just
Yeah.
feel the richness of longing and how beautiful longing is and how human it makes us.
Yeah.
There's a wealth of information inside that pocket.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely is like the feeling of longing is, I mean, everything's perfect. Like the fact that there's no judgment. Like nothing really would bother me. Like I don't care what other people say or think. Like this feeling of longing because I'm so confident and I know who I am. Like there's this, I don't know what the word is, like the feeling of true acceptance and surrendering to who I am and not trying to be someone who I'm not. Like that's that feeling I get when I'm in the feeling of belonging, you know?
Like an integrity, like living with
Yeah.
integrity.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel.
And it's because it's that same for me, it's that same feeling of like I explained of lighting that fire underneath you. Because I recently just had like a download of something I'm gonna create for to bring in more clients. And so I've been you've all felt that way, like right after you graduate from practicum and everything, and you're like, okay, like now what? And like I've been in that feeling for a while, like, okay, I do this, but there's still like there's something that like I still feel a little lost, I guess. And I
Mhm.
just had this download of what I'm going to do next. And all of a sudden I have all this motivation and all this excitement and I keep going. And so I feel like I'm finally that longing is because now I have this idea and it's not far fetched, but it's a little far out there and I have to really work hard to do it, but it doesn't feel overwhelming at all. It's like
Mhm.
I have to just do today. I'm going to get this done. Tomorrow I'm going to get this done. And all those little steps are going to finally get me to that place. So
Yeah.
all these little things that you can do in order to buy a house in Portugal, like it's that I feel like for me, that's what that longing does. It's like once you have a goal, I guess. So I'm trying to
Yeah,
feel
and
it
it makes it
too.
also easy. I mean, I will say out of everything that I've tried, even looking back at like my studio, like building the studio, I mean, there was so many, looking back, there were so many red flags, like not red flags, but like I don't know, like it just felt so hard. Like if it wasn't one thing, then there was another obstacle. Like I felt like I was going against the tide or the current, you know? And the one thing, if I'm being honest, the one thing so far in my life that has gone easy, not the fact easy, but felt like a sense where you're doing it and you're so excited about it, like it lights you up. You're so ready to like dive into, creating a website for that, or things are just easy. Even talking about it, it just comes out naturally where you don't have to overthink about it. That one thing was creating this wellness retreat in Portugal. Because I got so excited because I'm like, yes, I'm gonna go back to Portugal in the summer and I get to do this stuff. And I'm sure you probably have noticed, like, I really light up when I talk about my country, like, and being able to share the experiences and all these different places to other people. Like, even when you said that you went to Sintra, I was like, oh my God, another person got to experience. I get so excited. And that is my driving force. Like, I love that so much that creating the retreat was so effortless. Even though there were so many things involved, it felt so easy and it felt so good. So I knew that like that's like your call, like that's your what you're meant to do, And I'm doing other things like that are exciting, but not as exciting as doing these retreats in Portugal. So it has to, even though it like what you said, it feels like such a far-fetched like idea of what you want to do, but if you love it so much, things are just going to fall naturally. Like you're going to do, okay, I'm going to do this today, tomorrow, like things will at the end of the project, you're going to look back and feel like, wow, I got all of this done, you know? You just have to keep going and not give up on yourself because you can't. If this is what you're meant to do and this is what you love, you have to keep going.
Because I think it's about like turning that longing into a vision and just following, staying in integrity with that vision.
Yeah.
Did we take your question and go all over the place, Josh?
Yes.
Yeah, we went all over the place. Is that
No,
what
it
you
was
said?
perfect. It was
It
perfect.
was-
And I heard your dad speaking to Hannah. Like that was so beautiful. It was like a generational passing down this truth, this pocket of wisdom that he instilled in you, and then you're broadcasting it outward too. That was really
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. What about you, Josh? Can you share a little bit what,
What
I
are you
feel
longing for?
yeah, what are you longing for?
so I created an event that's coming up this Friday. Um, I made a drum like 5 or 6 weeks ago. And then at this lady where I made the drum, she also hosts like drum circles and she did a drum journey. And so it was the first time I'd experienced it. It was 25 minutes. My eyes were closed and I've done hundreds of hours of breath work. And so to kind of have that experience with the drum, it was I could feel the depth of the experience. And there was also this longing for breath work in that moment too. And so then I was like, what if I bring these two together? I don't know what this is going to look like. I just know it's going to be magical. And so it's this Friday, and I was talking with her. I actually made a rattle with her on Saturday. And so we were chatting about it, and it was like, what, my logical mind wants to get it just right and have the format down. And then my intuition is just like, no, and it's just being there and the magic will happen. And so I'm creating an event that I wish I could attend as a participant. So now I'm not marketing it, but as I market it, I'm just like, you guys, you got to come to this event. It's going to be so cool. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know how to tell you that it's going to be, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just know the two things there's going to be magic there.
Yeah. That
So
when you were saying that, like true transparency, I literally got chills when you were talking about it. Literally. Like I could feel it. Like I literally felt like, and it's so interesting when you allow ourselves, like you went to this drumming, like you created this drum with no intention that you were going to probably do an event with breath work, right? And you just got this, like I kind of want to attend this event. Like, is it going to be virtual? I mean, I can feel the drums and the like that is so freaking cool. So cool. I love it. I absolutely love it.
you turn
It's
your
so
longing into a creation like
yeah.
within a month.
That is amazing. Yeah. I saw that on Instagram that you had put together and yeah, it's going to be an amazing vibe. You have to let us know how it goes. I am so excited to hear about it.
Because the one thing that the three of us have learned from our mentor, Sam, is it's all energy and people can feel the energy you're creating something with. So I think I agree.
1000%.
I think everybody
1000%.
will feel that.
Yeah. It's just how you talk about it. Like you light up, like even how you were saying, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be freaking magical because you feel
Mhm.
it, you know? And the one thing I learned from someone when I was putting together this retreat is to create something that you would love to attend. So the fact that you said that,
Mm.
like I wish I could go to this event or had that is pure magic right there because it's putting yourself in that position, creating something that you're so passionate about, and then people will just come to you. Like you magnetize people, like I now want to attend this drumming event, like it's so cool. And I think that is so important that we create something that we would like ourselves to, join or be a part of. That is, I think that really, like I'm going back to your thing of lighting that fire within you, Hannah, like, and Josh, like that is something that I'm so happy that you followed that thought, that download, that moment where you were putting that together. So yeah, and I think not even planning it, just allow yourself to just feel into what's happening, and just your presence is enough. Like don't feel like you have to plan anything. Just start drumming, start breathing. It's going to be magical.
Mm-hmm. Let the tools do the work. Like let the breath do the work, let the drum do the work, and you are just, holding the space. You created the space and
Yeah.
created the collaboration, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah. So cool. It's Friday, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So exciting. I can't wait to hear it. Hopefully you'll do these and maybe a virtual one,
Yeah,
maybe.
I'll have to figure it out because I'll have to, because Zoom mutes the
Oh,
background.
yeah.
I think there's a way to disable it, but I just have to explore it and try it.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be so cool.
Because
I love
musicians
music.
musicians figure that out, how they have it's all thanks to COVID. Because remember, like there were all
Right.
like musicians doing like stuff over Zoom, and they had to figure out how to make it work. So you do.
Yeah, there's so many things that we weren't doing before COVID, and now it's like there's a lot of things that have shifted. Just even how people work now, like people are working now from home, then going into the office, doing some of these collaborations that you would typically do in person are now sometimes virtual. People actually like it because it's at their convenience. They don't have to travel. I mean, there's nothing like being in person, like especially an event like what you're gonna do, Josh. Like feeling like being in that energy of people and being in this space is very different from doing it in a virtual setting, even though you still will get a lot of great, you'll still get a great experience. But I get it. In person, there's a lot more depth in
Mhm.
certain events, right? But with whole COVID and doing things over Zoom has allowed us to facilitate things in a more easy, more practical way for people to participate, even from afar. Like even with breath work, like I would never think you could do these sessions virtually and they work out beautifully. And
Mhm.
you'll be able to connect with other people outside of our local community, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. We're lucky. We're lucky. I
Yeah.
know. I remember being like, how am I going to feel people's energy through a computer screen? But I was amazed.
Yeah. Right? 40 hours of that or whatever it was, right? It was 40 hours.
I remember that was like, what a shift, because I remember being so terrified. It was 60 for us.
Or maybe it was it 60 for us, Josh, too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here I am saying 40. Yeah. Okay, Lucy, 40, 40, 60.
That was so intimidating, but we did it.
I know. It's so crazy when we enrolled and like the first 3 months, like it was like more of the embodiment and all of that. And then once practicum hit, that intense, was it a week or was it just a few days? It was a
It
week,
was
right?
amazing.
Okay. It was a week. And then we're like, oh no, we got to do 60 hours. How are we going to do that from January to March? Like looking back now, even when you do this, have you guys done the Spotify Unwrapped thing that tells you like your
I
top
haven't been able to figure it
songs?
out, but
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
all of my breathwork music. Like thanks to Practicum, Soul Rising is now my number one artist. When before I had no idea who Soul Rising
It's
was.
definitely mine too, because I use them
Yeah,
for everything.
right? I'm like, where's my rock and roll artist? Like, like I'm all into rock and roll. Like I love rock and roll, like live for it. And now I look at the artists, my top 5 or 10 artists, they're all like, meditation, Zen, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Metaphysical music.
Yeah, and I'm like, where's my AC/DC or Led Zeppelin, man? Like, where are they? They didn't even make it to the cut because Soul Rising took over.
So funny. He's
So,
probably like, why are there all these people? Like his numbers are probably through the roof just because of
yeah.
Oz.
Or there's what is it? DJ Raz, I think
Yes.
the other one that was on my list.
And Essie Jane or Essie James or something. I have her
Yeah.
on my playlist too.
Yeah,
So
would have never made the cut last year, but it definitely made it this year.
to try it.
So fun, so fun.
So,
Oh,
do you bring breathwork into your sleep coaching?
I do for some moms who I'm feeling like, because a lot of moms that are coming to me are feeling super anxious and overwhelmed. And so sometimes I'll incorporate some breath work sessions within my program. Um, but right now they're kind of separate, two separate, not businesses, but like an umbrella from my Luminous by Lucia. So I'm doing right now I'm actually launching in a couple weeks. I'm doing like a mindfulness membership where it's all about breath work and doing my kind of my signature stretch and breathe workshop. It's called Align to Unwind. And that incorporates stretching because I am a yoga instructor as well. And so incorporating some stretching and then going into breath work. So creating like a workshop and then breath work around that will be like another separate thing from the sleep that I'm working on right now. Yeah, but I know a lot of moms can definitely benefit from breath work, especially if they have younger babies, younger kids. I can totally feel when they come to me like how stressed out they are. Um, how great, breath work can really help them feel more grounded. And especially when you were mentioning about feeling the energy, like our babies, our kids can really sense our energy. And so when you're working with a mom with a young baby who is, protesting, we replace crying with protesting, where the mom feels so triggered. And I remember when my son used to protest, like I could feel this outer body experience, like I'd get so triggered by it. And so our baby feels that energy, right? So when that happens, I always tell the mom to do whatever that is, either if it's breath work or just walking out the room for 2 minutes and then walking back in and just helping themselves kind of ground down. And that helps them because when they go back in, they're able to tune into their baby differently because they were able to kind of go from all the way up here and kind of ground themselves back to a neutral position. And that has helped them interact with their baby very differently when they come from a place of feeling more centered and grounded.
yeah. I was just listening to, I'm a big fan of Kathy Heller, and I was just listening
Oh
to one
yeah,
of
me
her
too.
shows, and she was saying, she's like, people have these baby showers and everyone's just giving them gifts and all these good, everything's positive, good, this. And she's like, then you come home with a baby and it's the scariest thing ever. And you have no idea what to do. And like nothing prepares you. As that many books and everything that you can read. That's nothing to prepare you. And so I don't know if I could ask this question of like, if there was like the perfect baby shower, not like all of the good things, but all of the real things, like what would that be for you? Because I just had a friend have a baby, and it's the same thing. It's like you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You
Yeah.
do, but you don't, and then like after the adrenaline wears off, and you're like, okay, now I have this baby. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for me, looking back, I would have totally nixed the whole material stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about baby carrier. I could get that later. Like none of that. I think the biggest thing for me, from just my experience, I would rather have had a stronger support system, whether that would be, look like having a doula for example. I think a doula, looking back, I'd be like, I would totally hire a doula in a heartbeat to be there to help the mom, meal prepping, taking care of the baby so that the mom can rest for a second, because you're 24/7. Hiring a sleep coach a little later on, when the baby is, 4 months and older, and whenever the mom feels or the parents feel ready to make a change into their family sleep. If they're planning on breastfeeding, having a lactation consultant in their back pocket, like those resources to help us thrive as parents and not worry so much about what type of bottle should I get, what kind of crib. I mean, yes, those are all great things and they're helpful, but to me, where it really is a true like help is those resources that I mentioned. And also like giving something to the mom to, take some time out to get a massage or some self-care, because it's we always forget when the mom is pregnant, we're always asked like, how are you feeling? Like, how are you feeling? Blah, blah, blah. Then when the baby comes, it's no one asks how the mom is feeling. It's like, well, how's the baby doing? I'm like, baby's great, but are you gonna ask
I'm falling
like
apart.
how the mom is doing? Like it's such a huge transition when you become a mom. And also with us, like we put our heart and soul into our kids, and sometimes we're giving from a half empty glass. And to have these resources that I mentioned and it's really doing us a disservice by not having them or treating ourselves to whatever that is. Like for me, one of my non-negotiables was working out. Movement of the body, whatever that looked like, had to be in place. And that was like really my life, like what's the word? My lifeline was the working out. It was the breath work, because it allowed me to come back to myself. I wasn't doing it to physically, yes, it was to help me go back to how I was feeling before pregnancy, but honestly, it was really to allow myself like to just let go of stress. Movement, especially running for me, was a big one. And so giving the mom space to do kind of, that stuff, I think that's priceless, more than cribs and PJs and diapers and all of that. They're all great things to have, but you need the moms to be in a really good place, and having that type of support is priceless.
Note to self, instead of for my baby shower, which will hopefully be soon. I want a baby so bad. That's what I'll do. Instead of no gifts, just donations from my doula.
Yeah, doula, or hiring someone to watch your baby so you can take some time off to do something that you love. People kind of forget, like, what did you love before you had a baby? Like they kind of just put themselves in the back burner, and I'm like, no, you need to come first, because when you feel good about yourself and make yourself priority, everyone else is going to start thriving. You're going to show up differently for your kids. You're going to show up differently for your partner. You're going to show up differently at work. I mean, it literally is something that has like a domino effect. When you feel good about yourself, everyone around you is going to feel good.
Some great advice.
Yeah. So forget about the carriers and the cribs. Hire a doula or a night nurse, or, whatever it is that you feel like is something that is going to help and support you through motherhood.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
So someone wanting to work with you, do you do like a one-on-one, like one by one, or is it like you need them for this amount of time? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, so for my sleep program, I do offer three offers for my sleep program, but my core offer is a 3-week program for my sleep program, and that's one-on-one. And it's really working individually between, obviously one-on-one between the mom or the parent and myself for 3 weeks. And we really work on from creating a sleep plan that's personalized to the family. And the game changer with my program is the one-on-one, where they have the ability to connect with me throughout the day. I check in with them, especially if they're troubleshooting with naps, where naps are short, or because it's executing the sleep plan is the challenge, because you can have the perfect plan, but if you don't feel confident in implementing it or executing or having that person to tell you keep going, like don't give up, that's where a lot of parents fall short, is like they try it out for 1 or 2 nights and then that's it. And I tell parents things take time. Like if your baby is sleeping a certain way for 5, 6 months, I mean, I work with toddlers as well. It's a big adjustment. You have to give them space and time to learn how to sleep this new way, especially if the parents are, sleeping with their kid in their room, right? And they want to transition out of the room. And especially if you're working with a toddler, this is a major change for him. It's a major change for the whole family. So it's going to take some time. You can't just expect changes to happen overnight. And so that's where my one-on-one really helps people, is to motivate them, but also allow them to, I give them feedback on, okay, next time this happens, I'd love for you to try this instead. So it's really that support that really is a game changer with my sleep program. So that's my sleep. With my breath work, like I said, I do offer private sessions one-on-one, and it feels really good, and I love doing the one-on-one, but I had this calling to do more of a group setting and create a membership. So I have that's happening in a couple weeks. So there's the group component in breath work, and then more one-on-one with my sleep program. Yeah, and I love working with one-on-one, like that personalized attention. And also with breath work, I think it's a really beautiful gift that I'm able to hold space for that one person, but I think it's really unique and cool to bring a group of people that they take their time, from their busy lives, and they come together as a group and create this beautiful sacred container. I think it's pretty awesome too. So, and I've always worked in a group setting, like with teaching group fitness. I've always been around with a lot of people around me, so it does feel really good. And I love that component with certain elements of my business, but when it comes to sleep, I feel that one-on-one is really needed for the parents more than a group setting. At least for me, that's how I feel with my business.
It makes sense. Everyone's routines are different.
Yeah, and it's different. Everyone has different needs, and with my sleep program, because I personalize everything, like I want it to fit the parent's lifestyle, but also meet the way that they parent, like that meets their parenting style too, like one way might work well for families and maybe another way may work differently. So I like to really personalize it for that family.
So, how can people get in touch with you?
So I'm very active on Instagram. They can find me at Luminous by Lucia, or they can visit me on my website, which is luminousbylucia.com.
And we always ask, if you had one message to share with all of our listeners, what would it be?
I think my biggest message this mantra has carried me through a lot, is that you are enough. It's my mantra that I say to myself, I am enough. I share that with my clients, that's all they're enough. That's all they need to know. That's all they need to be, is just themselves. And that's it.
Just how you are.
Just how you are.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Lucia, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. And I loved our conversation. I love the deep questions, Josh. And Josh, I cannot wait to hear about your event on Friday. I will be checking up on you and kind of stalking you to see if you put any pictures of your event. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, thank you.
You are so welcome.
I'll be updating on social media too. So
yeah, I can't wait. I hope you have a beautiful, magical experience on Friday.
Thank you.
What a great episode. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Let us know what you took from that. Leave some comments, share with a friend who also might resonate with the story. Subscribe, like, all those things so that we can spread the word about our podcast. And so all of our beautiful stories that we get to hear from our amazing guests get to be shared around the world. We appreciate you as a listener, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Deeper Awareness podcast, where the journey of self-discovery and inner growth continues to unfold. We hope this episode has ignited a spark within you and inspired you to embrace a more conscious and authentic existence by looking within. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming episodes, where we'll continue to explore the transformative power of breathwork and emotional healing. Continue the conversation and stay connected with us on Instagram. Follow at Deeper Awareness Podcast to receive daily inspiration, valuable tips, and updates on our latest episodes and offerings. We'd love to hear your thoughts and insights from today's show, so feel free to share them in the comments below or tag us in your posts. Your engagement and feedback mean the world to us as we strive to continue to create content that resonates and empowers our incredible community. Together, we can continue exploring the depths of consciousness, fostering genuine connections, and supporting each other on our transformative journeys. This episode is brought to you by You Belong Breathwork, your destination for transformative healing and self-discovery. At You Belong Breathwork, we believe in the power of breath to unlock the deepest parts of ourselves, leading to profound insights and a greater sense of connection and belonging. Whether you're seeking emotional healing, a deeper connection with yourself, or a path to authenticity, our breathwork sessions, retreats, and coaching programs are designed to guide you on this transformative journey. Our experienced facilitators are here to hold space for you as you explore the depths of your consciousness and discover the infinite potential within. Visit youbelongbreathwork.com to explore our offerings and download a free guided breathwork session. Thank you for being a part of our Deeper Awareness community. Stay connected, stay curious, and may you embrace your true essence with love and compassion. Goodbye for now, and see you in the next episode.